Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the man who has never been wrong about any mock draft prediction ever. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm the first ever 100%er when it comes to mock drafting. I should have Todd McShay's job, basically.
Yeah, I think so. Well, this is why we have you here, right? Just because, you were, that's how we met, is you were consistently going 100%. So I just had to have you on the podcast.
Basically, I mean, I got to keep it tame here when you pick crazy things like J.K. Dobbins to the Ravens and stuff like that. So I keep it rational.
Wild off the board stuff that would never happen. Speaking of stuff like that, Kyle, I thought it'd be fun to go back. So this is our third year doing a mock draft. I thought it'd be fun to go back and see some of our spicier takes of the past 2 years and how they turned out. How does that sound?
That sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, so 2020, only a couple in 2020. There was two big ones. One that you just talked about. I had the Ravens getting J.K. Dobbins round 1. Some people said it's way too early, which they were right. Some people said the Ravens don't need a halfback. Those ones not so right. So that was kind of I think some people were right, some people were wrong there. I don't know how I feel about that one.
I mean, like if Dobbins was healthy and good last year, is there even a conversation for this?
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, he was very, and again, everything I said about he was very good his rookie year.
So yeah, I mean, I still think it was an okay play. That's one of the I'm not a huge fan of taking running backs in the first round unless you're like a specific team setup where you're almost like I don't like not taking Najee Harris in the first round, even though I thought Harris was pretty good his first year. But I think if you're a team that's almost Super Bowl ready, like I thought the Ravens were that season, I think a guy like Dobbins is the right way to go.
Yeah. Justin Herbert falling in the draft. That one maybe not quite. He went, I believe, 23. That one maybe in hindsight might have missed on that one.
Yeah, we don't need to bring up any of the Herbert stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. A couple other ones that I think. So Mac Jones at number 3. That was a spicy one. That one I think, in hindsight. So this is 2021, obviously. That one in hindsight, probably a good one. Also to plow ahead at a few. Trey Lance to the Panthers at 8. Clearly, the Panthers didn't need to go quarterback there. They had Sam Darnold, so we were wrong about that one. So both of those two, those were misses.
Yeah. Those were completely, how dare the Panthers ever try to address the quarterback position?
Yeah, we were both lower on, in fairness, in the other way, we were both lower on Patrick Surtain, and also I was really high on Kellen Mond. The Kellen Mond take, I might have gotten a bit too excited about that. I might have talked myself into him a bit too much on that one, Kyle.
Maybe a bit, but maybe if he gets a chance, we'll see. We'll never know. Mike Zimmer doesn't like him, so maybe the new coach.
Right. Yes. Couple more. Kyle, you just brought up Najee Harris. You had the Jets drafting Najee Harris at 23, which was a bold move back then. I had forgotten about that. That was a wild one.
Yeah. I mean, I still thought it was pretty decent his first year. He just went to the Steelers, so.
Right. And then finally, I forgot how much criticism I got. I tweeted this out. How much criticism I got when I drafted Micah Parsons to Miami at 6. I mean, that was the whole chat blew up at me when that happened. That was a weird one. I mean, Jalen Waddle was good. Yeah,
it worked out for them, but Parsons is also terrific. So
right,
can't complain either way.
Yeah, I think so as well. So those were a hot take. So I feel like we got more right than wrong out of the spicy ones.
I agree. I think we've done pretty well. I think this is a solid podcast when it comes to draft content. There's a lot of things we're not good at, but I think we're pretty good at this.
Yeah, maybe not great at it, but good. We'll give you a solid B+.
Yeah, top above average.
Yeah, that's always the goal when drafting is to be above average. We are going to do our mock draft. Let's get into it. No more. Also, actually, I have one more thing I want to talk about before we get into it, Kyle. Does everyone watch the movie Draft Day? Is that just a thing that people are just constantly doing? My Twitter timeline is filled with people saying, time for the annual tradition to watch Draft Day. I've never seen Draft Day. Am I supposed to be watching Draft Day?
I have not watched it. I don't know.
Yeah. Do we have to do maybe that's an off-season podcast. It's a movie review podcast of Draft Day.
Yeah, I guess we could do that. I'm usually, napping at some point during the draft anyways. I don't know if I need to watch a movie about the draft.
Yeah, really. All right, let's get into it. Kyle, we're going to be doing the mock draft. I have the PFF mock draft simulator up on the screen. If there's any technical issues that arise, people in the chat, please let me know. I also see, again, in the chat. Draft Day is a great movie, and then no, the movie is garbage. So I feel like I gotta watch it now. There's so much controversy about it.
I have no idea what to think about this movie now. There's too many conflicting reports. We'll
Yeah.
have to get into it. Maybe we'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Maybe again, if you do, let us know next week when we recap the draft. Maybe we'll say draft day recap, and it'll just be about the movie.
We won't talk about the actual draft at all.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Kyle. So you explained this to me in the pre-show, and let me make sure that I have this right. So I will be doing the odds. However, at a certain point, I am going to be picking back-to-back, and then I'll start doing the evens, and you do the odds, just so that way I can pick for the Buccaneers, and you can pick for the Saints, or excuse me, for the Patriots, so that way we can both get our teams. Sound good?
Wait, no, you're picking only one even team.
Only one even team. Okay, wait.
Yes,
so
because the Buccaneers are also an odd team. So basically, you're picking the odds, and after you pick the Saints at 19, you will also be picking the Steelers at 20. And then I will take the Patriots at 21 and the Packers at 22, and then we go back to our original order.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Just correct me when we get there.
Okay, sounds good.
Not a math podcast, Kyle.
Okay. Is that
all right? A little bit, numbers, whatever. Let's get it. We're 8 minutes into this podcast. We should probably start getting to some draft stuff here. So I have odds, right?
Yes, you have odds.
Okay. I'm starting off with the odds. So I should also clarify, we're doing what we would do in this situation, not necessarily what we think is going to happen. We're putting ourselves in general manager's shoes, and 1-1. It's the easy pick. I have to go Aiden Hutchinson here, Kyle. To me, he's clearly the best player. It's crazy. Trayvon Walker is now the front runner to go first overall, which is just something I did not see coming whatsoever. But I think Aiden Hutchinson's just great. I really hope for Jacksonville's perspective, they take this pick.
Yeah, I think that's the pick too. I mean, listen, if Trayvon Walker's amazing, I'm sure we're both good. I mean, we've both admitted to being wrong in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Trayvon Walker's really good, we'll both admit to being wrong on the pick, you know. But if Trayvon Walker is actually the first pick without a lot of production, I think that's a big risk. I think that's really tough to see. But he could be awesome. Obviously, the physical traits are outstanding. I like Hutchinson a little bit more. I think he has all pro potential. I think he's definitely number one pick.
Listen, I like Cameron Thomas. If drafting him number one would be insane, right? It's not an indictment on Trayvon Walker to say I don't think he should be the first overall pick. I guess it kind of is. It's just he doesn't have the production to back it up.
I agree. I think it'd be crazy. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really tough, but they could take him still. That's a lot of the reports. I think he's the betting favorite.
Yeah. Like by significant, it's like minus 300 now.
Yeah, but so I guess here's the thing. I guess if you're the Jaguars, this is a new regime. You maybe think you could take a chance here, and like maybe it works out, but at the same time, like if you're wrong on this pick, that's another year you have to start all over again, right?
Yeah, this does feel like this is very much Trent Baalke's MO, is what people have talked about. You know, he drafted Aldon Smith with the 49ers. You know, I mean, it didn't work out with off the field stuff, but on the field, he was clearly very good. But he also had production in college. So we'll see. I don't know. It just seems like this is a big gamble, but maybe we'll talk about it more once we get to him in the draft, wherever he gets drafted. Why don't you go to number 2?
All right, number 2. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the list here. I've joked for a long time that the Detroit Lions need 18 new starters. That may be a little extreme, but I think they need a lot of them. There's a few different guys I really like here. I like the idea of Sauce Gardner. I don't know if I'm going to take him with the number 2 pick, though. I like the idea of potentially an Evan Neal or an Ikem Ekwonu. But I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I'm going to take – now, there is a lot of baggage with this that a lot of people are concerned about. But I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau, who I think is the number 2 player. He's number 2 player on my big board. He's almost every bit of the athletic specimen that Trayvon Walker is. He has a lot more production when he's on the field. I think that he's awesome. I could see the Lions potentially trading back and trying to stockpile more picks just because this team needs so many players. But I think if they're going to take the pick, I think Kayvon's the guy.
Yeah, I can't argue it. He's number 3 on my big board myself, so I don't hate it whatsoever. He's a great player, and like I think that some of this stuff that's off the field stuff, I don't know if I like. I don't get it. I guess my thing with this off the field stuff is like, if it was a really big issue, you would expect it to have shown up on the field, right? Like typically, if that's an issue that hurts him on the field, it probably would have already shown up on the field. That's kind of the way I view that stuff. And it's not like it's not like he's going out like if Micah Parsons gets drafted with his quote unquote off the field stuff, like Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, he likes NFTs, whatever. I think that he's someone who he's tremendous on the field. I think he's the one of the really good players available. I have no issue with this.
Yeah, and it's not like his stuff is like legitimate character concerns, like he's getting arrested or anything like that. This feels like the this is a NBA to NFL comparison, but this feels like the LaMelo Ball conversation to me before the draft, where people were questioning LaMelo Ball as a top pick because, I mean, I don't want to comment because I don't really know the guy and haven't talked to him, but there's a lot of comments out of basically draft interviews that LaMelo Ball was an asshole. And it kind of seems like the same thing with Kayvon Thibodeau, but once again, these guys aren't getting in trouble. They aren't doing stupid things. They just rub some people the wrong way, it sounds like. But I think he's really talented, and I take him number 2.
Yeah, and like there's even the thought too, if he has maybe a higher ceiling than an Aiden Hutchinson, because he gets production, unlike a Trayvon Walker, but he also is a little bit less polished. So maybe you could even argue that there's more room to grow. Really good stuff with Thibodeau. Number 3, this is a really interesting one because it's funny, on the PFF mock draft simulator it says the needs are every position for the Texans, and it's hard to argue too much. They need a lot, and I think there's several ways we could go with this. To me, I am going to go with my number 2 guy on my board, even if it's not maybe the scheme fit might be a little bit odd. Give me Sauce Gardner here. I know the Lovie Smith defense prioritizes cover 2 zone. I think Gardner would be good in that coverage. I think that they desperately need everything. So just getting the best player available. And I think getting an elite corner is something that can really help out your franchise for a long way. So that's what I'm going here.
I agree with the pick. I think that's the right way to go here. I think there are a few other guys. You could go for a guy that's kind of a jack of all trades like Kyle Hamilton, although I think I'd like to see him in a little bit like more complete defense. But you could go offensive line here because they need some help on that side on there too. But I think Gardner has a ton of upside, and he looks like a future number 1 corner. I completely agree with that. The Jets are devastated with this pick, though.
Yeah, the Jets are devastated. Last thought about the Texans. They should literally just pick whoever is the best player available. Like, there's no spot on the roster. No one currently on their depth chart should make them say, well, we can't draft that position. Like, they don't have anyone good enough to make you say we shouldn't go this position. Draft the best player available. Yeah. Jets are devastated. Jets probably would have loved to have Sauce Gardner. Where are they going instead?
Yeah, this is a tough one. So, oh, man. So, I posted my big board on Twitter, by the way. I posted top 32.
Oh, I missed that.
I had Drake London number 3.
Okay.
Drake London fills a need, and Drake London also fits with Elijah Moore, and I think that's a pretty dynamic offense. The question is it worth the risk? So you could do that. You could go offensive line at this point. I'm going to go with London. I'm a big fan of London. I think he's my number 1 receiver. I think he's incredibly talented. I think he's got superstar potential. I think he's got a DeAndre Hopkins-like ability to catch the ball in traffic. I think he's a terrific route runner. I think he's going to be a number 1 receiver in the league for a number of years.
Reach.
Hey, if he's not your number 1 receiver, I don't get it, but I get it. But at the same time, I had this guy, like I said, he's number 3 on my big board. This doesn't feel like a huge reach to me. It's a chance. It's definitely a chance, but we saw some people are talking about offensive line. Well, we saw the difference with the Bengals between not drafting an offensive lineman and drafting Jamar Chase. If this is that level of a receiver, Drake London has a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't hate Drake London to the Jets. I guess just the issue is you probably could still get a really good receiver at 10, and it feels like you could get, maybe Derek Stingley is the choice here. I don't think you need an offense. I guess that's what I would say is it's a wide receiver versus, I think, Stingley for me. Also, we have so it looks like someone high up in the Jets organization is chatting along with us because Friggle D let us know Jets are not taking Sauce at 4. So good insight information by Friggle D. Good to know that that's not happening. So at least we know that.
Yeah. Well, and then the other conversation is that there is a chance that potentially a guy like the Deebo Samuel conversation of all this. If this is the team that realistically has been talked about the Deebo Samuel, has obviously 49ers coach as their head coach. So if they get a guy like Deebo Samuel, obviously they're not taking receiver at 3 or 4, sorry. But I do think with the situation, and if not doing trades, obviously in this mock draft, I'm going to go with the guy I think is the best player available.
Yeah, fair enough. And listen, I like Drake London as a player. I had him at number 17 on my board. So it's not like I think he's a trash player or anything. I do love the fit with him and Zach Wilson. That's really exciting. And maybe you feel like you can, they should get 2 good players regardless. Let's move on to number 5 here. I think I'm just going to go with, there's someone I have ahead in my big board, but it's not a huge position of need. Or just, I guess what I should say is it's not an impact position as much as corner is. Give me Derek Stingley to the Giants here. That just kind of, Bradbury could be gone. So this could allow for, them to make that move if they want to, or they could give it a year because Stingley still has tons of, there are some questions. Maybe it'll take him a little bit to develop. It takes corners time to develop just in general. But again, best player available. The Giants need a lot. Getting Derek Stingley here. They have another pick, a couple picks later. That's why I like this.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. It's interesting because I don't think it's their number 1 need, but I still think it is kind of a need. I think Giants fans would go a little crazy not taking offensive line, but at the same time, I still think they're going to get a pretty good offensive lineman with their next pick, as long as they're not trading back or anything like that. So I think it's fair to say, let's take a chance with the pick. Even if we end up with our number 2 offensive lineman on the board, I still feel pretty good about that. So I think that's the right play. I think it's a good chance because I think Stingley is also a potential star.
I disagree. I think I screwed up.
You did?
Yeah, here's what I think I screwed up on. And I just realized this right after I made the pick. I think I should have waited 2 picks to take Stingley because the Panthers are not going corner here at number 6. So unless you're afraid of a trade, I think I probably should have taken tackle here and gotten Stingley at number 7.
Yes, because I think the Panthers go tackle here. Now, if I'm the Panthers, I'm taking an offensive tackle here.
Okay, interesting.
So that's where I'm going with the Panthers. I think that, here's the problem. We've heard the Kenny Pickett rumors. And we just criticized this team for not taking quarterback last season. But I think the difference is that all those guys were kind of viewed as top 15 prospects. I don't know if that I don't have Kenny Pickett as a first-round prospect. I have 2 quarterbacks in the first round. One's 32, and then one's middle of the first round. So I'm not going to take Kenny Pickett here, even though that's the rumors. It could happen. I just don't think it's a good idea. I'm going to go with my number 1 tackle because it fell to me. I'm going with Evan Neal. I still think he's physically potentially the most dominant offensive tackle in this draft. I think there's 2 that are probably a little more polished, but Neal still got pretty good results, and he's also physically, I think, even more impressive. So I'm going with him at 6.
Listen, I like Evan Neal a lot. I don't hate this decision. It does feel like either tackle or quarterback is going to be the move here. I guess my thing is, what are we doing with the Panthers? If they draft Evan Neal, why do we keep Rule on for another year? He's completely fired, right?
Probably, but I don't this is just, I guess the thing is that this is what, if I were in charge, the problem is what do you,
Sure.
I guess if you love Kenny Pickett, you go Kenny Pickett, right? Or if you love Malik Willis, you go Malik Willis. Or if you love Matt Corral, you go Matt Corral. But I guess the question is based on, because the rumors are Kenny Pickett for Panthers. So if it's, drafting Pickett at 6, and potentially, I think they have a 2nd round pick.
No, the Panthers. This is the interesting about the Panthers. They don't pick again until pick 130. So this is their 1 pick of this draft, basically.
Okay, so
that's my whole thing about why I think they should go quarterback is because they're not getting another one. This is their guy.
Yeah, but then once again, is this a potential with that option of not having really players? Is this or picks, is this the potential trade back spot to get a couple extra picks and get a quarterback?
Maybe, but at the same time, shouldn't you just take a quarterback here? We keep criticizing the Panthers for going cheap on quarterback, and I get that this is the draft to go cheap on quarterback, but shouldn't you just take the guy who you feel best about and hope it works out?
You could, but at the same time, I think Matt Rhule's probably done anyways.
For
Um,
sure. But then
so
why not just fire him now?
I mean, you could, but at the same time, I think that just with the contract he's going to stick on for another year. I think the goal is that if you're the GM, are you worried about the pick that's going to try and keep your coach, or you kind of try and get the best player? And I think that's where I'm going with the best player here.
Best player and then get a quarterback with, next year when it's a better quarterback draft. I guess I get it. I don't hate the logic. Let's move on. Number 7, the Giants need offensive line. 2 ways you could go. I like Cross and Akeem Ikwonu pretty well. Give me Akeem Ikwonu. I do have him as a better offensive lineman. Some people would rather have Cross, but I'm going to go Ikwonu, especially one. They don't need left tackle, so either way, you're getting someone to move. But I think Cross and Ikwonu could play, right tackle fine. But I like Ikwonu as kind of the better fit there anyways. So, he's probably who I would have taken at 5 had I picked the tackle there. So either way, the Giants get the 2 guys that I was going to have them get.
Yeah, I think that's the right pick. Obviously, they need offensive line help. Now, I guess here's the question: would you be surprised if they go 2 offensive linemen with both picks?
No, and when I did a mock draft earlier, my initial what I would do, it was just after I finished scouting everyone. So I've changed on some opinions since then. I had them going 2 offensive linemen for that reason. Just make the offensive line from a weakness to a strength, because their offense is good outside of the line. It's good. Daniel Jones isn't great, but he's not atrocious either. And it has a lot of receivers who have played good outside of last year, which was a complete mess. So I'm not hating on this offensive line if they can improve. I'm not hating on this offense as long as they can improve the line.
Yeah, I agree. And it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But I think like you said, taking a chance on getting a guy like Stanley, who's a potential star there, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you're still getting one of the best tackles in the draft too. I think that makes a lot of sense. I agree with you. I would go Ikwonu over Cross too. But if you like the physical tools of Cross, I get it as well. I think that's a good pick though.
Yeah. All right. Number 8, Atlanta Falcons. They're an interesting team. A lot of ways they could go as well. Where do you have them going?
All right. So I think if this draft were to play out exactly like this, I think Atlanta would probably go Trayvon Walker. That being said, Trayvon Walker is currently 27th on my big board. I don't even know if he's first round picking your big board. I'm going to take a chance here. I think this team needs a lot of help still, but I think the biggest need now is obviously with Matt Ryan gone. I think this team can take a chance a bit here. Arthur Smith's going to want a new guy in that building. I'm going to go with Malik Willis.
Okay. I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. I think there's a lot of logic behind this. I wonder how, the fans will react. The reality is, anytime you get a good quarterback or get a rookie quarterback, people will get excited about it. But yeah, I think it makes sense. Again, you're another one of these teams where you're in such a bad situation. Why not start taking flyers on quarterbacks? Why not start taking chances? If Malik Willis isn't good, you can take another quarterback next year. There's no law saying you have to wait, give a quarterback multiple years to do it. I like this move. I think this might be what I would do as well.
Yeah. Like I said, I think if one of those big 3 defensive linemen fall, I could see if Thibodeau falls, that they take Thibodeau. If they take it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take one of those 3 edge rushers. But with the way this draft played out, and us not being as high, obviously, on Walker, I think this is a chance where you could really take a shot at this guy. And I think it's a really good offensive system for him to go in. I'm a big fan of the Arthur Smith offense. I think it works. Obviously, they need receiver help too, so they could go receiver. But I want the quarterback in the building before I worry about wide receiver.
Yeah, it's interesting with the other quarterbacks as well. I've heard Desmond Ridder comps to Ryan Tannehill as kind of an upside thing, so that could work with the Arthur Smith offense, of course. But yeah, the other option would be a George Karloftus getting a good edge player. But again, what are we doing now if you have a good edge player? You're still losing. You need to get the quarterback situation under control.
Yeah. So this team has a lot to build, but I think this is a good first step. And you'll see what happens. I still pretty high on Willis's upside, even if he's not the most polished quarterback of the last 3 or 4 years. But I think that's a good pick.
Yeah. All right. Number 9. So I could follow the trend of quarterback. There is another one I have a first round grade on, but I don't know if Seattle does that. It's interesting because Seattle's another one of those teams that I guess probably I don't know. So here are the 2 people I'm in between is Charles Cross and then Matt Corral. Those are my 2 favorite Matt Corral is my second favorite quarterback of this draft class. And I guess, I don't know. I think you can get Corral in the second round. I don't think teams are that high on him. So for that reason, I'm going to wait on Corral just because I think it would be a reach as of now. They're another team I think could consider trading back. I'm not sure if they will. Just give me Charles Cross. They could use a tackle. It would be hilarious if they got rid of Russell Wilson and used that draft pick for an offensive lineman. That would just be fantastic. But I think it's a position of need. Protect Drew Lock. Get Charles Cross.
Protect Drew Lock, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the one person I was looking at here is George Carloftus. I think this is a guy who could sneak into that spot. He feels like a Seahawks defensive lineman too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the one spot because I do think they need help on the defensive line. And I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think that's also a best player available situation if Cross falls that spot.
Yeah. I think so as well. And again, they have a few holes. I don't think they're as far away though as like the Panthers and the Falcons are. Like I think those teams are just like bad football teams. Like there are some good qualities of the Seahawks, which is why I don't hate them as much going after different positions. And again, I feel it could just be a reach getting the quarterback here at 9. So number 10, the other Jets pick. Where are you going?
All right. I'm going to go best player available again. I still think this team just needs good players. We like some of the pieces on this team, but I think there's one guy who has a potential. I think it's a potential boomer bust pick again. I think this guy could be awesome. I think he can kind of fill a hybrid linebacker role for them or play a back safety. I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton here. He's number 7 on my board. He's going to 10. I think Jets would be hopeful. They'd be hopeful that potentially like Seattle passes on Cross there and they can get a guy like Cross if the draft plays out this way. But with Gardner going right before they got their 4th pick and with Cross going right before their 10th pick, I think they're going best player available in both situations, and I think Hamilton fits.
Yeah, me being lower on Hamilton has been well documented. I have him as my 35th rated prospect. So to me, this would entirely depend on, is he going to be a strong safety or is he going to be a free safety? And even that, it's like, I guess I have a question of, because either it's I feel differently about Hamilton the player or I feel differently about his usage, because I'm worried that this is Jamal Adams getting put in Seattle. It's a very similar scheme, what the Jets do and what the Seahawks do. I'm worried that you're putting a box safety in a role where he can't really thrive. I think he'll do solid in that role, but to me, that's kind of, I don't know how much value we're getting here.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends. I think I trust Robert Saleh enough to kind of figure this out. And I think the thing is with, I think it's a toolsy player who's just really kind of fascinating because I think he can do a lot of different things really well. But yeah, sure. I do think there are some holes in his game that are going to have to be worked out. But I think a guy like Saleh, I really trust to kind of get in the situation there and figure out how to best utilize his game and utilize his strength. If he's just a straight outside linebacker on the Jets, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he's going to end up that position, but I think he's going to be put in a lot of different positions to succeed.
Yeah, here's something that some people brought up that I actually think is really smart, is I wouldn't hate Jets getting Devin Lloyd at 10. That's interesting to me. I don't hate that at all. In fact, I'm going to get Devin Lloyd just one pick later. Devin Lloyd here, number 11 to the Washington football team, who, again, they spent a lot of draft capital on linebacker, but if you haven't made the linebacking core like great yet, you got to spend more draft capital on it. I don't think it's their biggest need necessarily. I just think it's best player available. I really like Devin Lloyd, so I'm drafting him here.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the one thing I'm a little concerned about is, I guess, the positional value of linebacker. That being said, we've seen some really good ones drafted early kind of pan out. Michael Parsons last year, even though he wasn't full-on linebacker.
Right.
That being said, I think Lloyd's terrific. He's number 12 on my board. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think he fits the team well.
Yeah. You just drafted a safety who you think might play linebacker one pick earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think Hamilton has a little more versatility, but I think Lloyd, like I said, I think he's going to be on a team for 10 years, whoever picks him, just because he's that type of player. And I think he fits. These linebackers could not cover in Washington at all last season. So I think this is a really good fit.
Yeah, I think so as well. Lloyd is it's certainly a safer bet here. And Washington's one of those weird teams. Like they don't have a lot of holes. Like they're like weirdly. You look at the roster, it's weirdly pretty complete, which is just kind of like they need a quarterback, obviously. I mean Carson Wentz, I think will be fine. They might make the playoffs next year. That's a bit of a hot take, but I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah,
They
I
won't.
mean,
They won't
they
win the
weren't.
Super Bowl, but they might make the playoffs in a weak division.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't that far off. They won it 2 years ago, so it's not crazy to think that they could.
Mhm.
If Carson Wentz is even, okay, but we'll see on that.
Yeah. Number 12, the Vikings are another just fascinating team here. Every time I get to the Vikings in any mock draft, I'm always like, yeah, what should they do? Where are you having them go?
That is a good question because man. So there's a few different things they can go. The next best player on my board, for what it's worth, is Jamison Williams. I don't think really fits that. They could go. I don't think Nakobe Dean's really a priority either for them. That's the next highest player on my board. So I'm gonna go with the next highest player on my board, and that's Carloftus, who's I think going to be a solid edge rusher. I think he fits the team, and I think he's just going to fit the situation really well. I think Carloftus works there. I think this team could be like if the draft were to play out this way, they could take a swing on a guy like Walker, but I think Walker's going earlier. But even if he does fall this far, they could take a swing on him. But I think Carloftus makes sense.
Yeah, him with Daniil Hunter on the other side could be very fun. He is someone who he just wins. Like that's just what he does. He constantly finds a way to win. So that's very interesting to me. Probably where I would have gone as well. He was number 8 on my board. So number 13, you have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans need everybody. This is such an interesting position for them. Do I want to do something wild here, Kyle? Do I want to make everyone mad? Do I do something that gets the chat all angry at me?
Ooh, all right. What is it?
What if I went with Matt Corral here? I don't think it's crazy. Like, he's my number 2 quarterback on my board. I have him at number 12. This would be 13. And if, they already got a good player, get a good quarterback and try to go, or you think they're just so far away they should not even try that?
I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% sold on Davis Mills being a superstar. So if they
Mhm.
want to go somewhere else, I'd be perfectly okay with that. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I think I don't think it's a crazy pick if you want to go Corral.
Here's my thing. If you don't love Matt Corral, I think that's a fine. I think I'm not going to do it just because if he's ranked 53, you can get him round 2. So I'm going to take him off my big board. We won't have him round 1. But like, if you're not taking him because you think Davis Mills is the answer, I don't know what to tell you other than watch more than just the 2 good Davis Mills games last year because he was really bad in most of these games. He just had some splashes. I'll go somewhere else with this. How about let's go? So again, they're in such a weird spot. That's why I'm kind of struggling with this pick because I don't know exactly where I want to go here. I'm thinking I think I'll go Devontae Wyatt, who I have a couple players higher on my big board, but I just like him. He's a good player. Bolster up that defensive line. Seems like a safe pick.
That is a safe pick. I'm surprised it's not Williams, honestly. I know he's your number 1 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I, th-
I thought
I
about.
think
I think it feels a little early to get a receiver for me.
Okay. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean it's fair, but it's I think that fits the team. I think they desperately need wide receiver help, honestly. But I think Wyatt's a guy who's going to be a starter from day one. It could take a little bit of time for him to adjust, but I think it's a good pick there. And you'll be able to address that later.
Yeah. And again, I didn't really love anyone. Like this is kind of a weird spot. Jamison Williams was the one I was also sort of thinking about. I don't hate that. I mean, I have him as my number 10 prospect, and he's number 13. I just kind of feel like with the Texans, I don't know. Maybe I should have gone Jamison Williams, but we're doing this on the fly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what? I think I am going to go there. I think Baltimore would take a chance on that. I think that they want wide receiver help. I think they'll get wide receiver help. They could go a guy like McDuffie here. I have McDuffie a little bit lower on my board, even though I have a first round grade on him. And I think that I think they'd love if Wyatt was there, honestly. I think Wyatt was going to be my pick until you took him to the Texans.
Mhm.
I don't think it's the type of team that would take a guy like Jordan Davis. I don't think it really fits their scheme, but I think Wyatt fits their scheme really well. So if he's there, he was my pick for the Ravens, but with the Texans taking him, I have to go a little off here. I'm taking a chance on a guy like Williams to be a deep threat for Lamar.
Yeah, that would be very fun. That would be very exciting. I think we haven't really seen Lamar with that kind of player. I mean, Hollywood Brown was kind of that guy, but I think Williams could be a more just more explosive version of that. So that could be really interesting, and that speed could work together. Again, I know they have guys, right? They have Hollywood Brown, they have Rashad Bateman, who they drafted in the first round last year, but they still could use wide receivers, and he's the best player available. So I think this is a fine pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, like they could get another defensive lineman as well. They could try a few different things, but like I said, I think like a guy like Davis, who I'm high on, I just don't think fits their scheme. So with Wyatt gone, I'm going off board.
Yeah, I think all of that makes sense. So for the Philadelphia Eagles here, again, couple of interesting ways they could go about this. I have some, offensive linemen still pretty high on my board, but I don't know if they need to do that necessarily. Linebacker might be something that's interesting. Defensive back might be something that's interesting. I actually think if the board breaks down this way, this is a bad situation for the Eagles. They could go wide receiver, but I just don't know if I love any of these guys at this spot necessarily. So I think I'm just going to go with Nakobe Dean. They could use a linebacker, get a good linebacker.
Yeah. This guy has range for days. I'm a huge fan. I think he's going to be a star. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. This is it. I think this is a good pick for them. I have him 12th on my big board. I think it's also a steal.
Yeah, I had him a little bit lower than that. I had him at, I believe, 16 or 17 on my board. So he's going right around in that range. And someone, they could use him. So 16, New Orleans Saints, where are you going?
I think this team still needs a bit of help on the offensive side of the ball. The big tackles are obviously off the board, so that's a little tough for them. There are a few different positions that I could go here. I'm gonna go with my next best receiver on the board. I'm gonna go with Chris Olave.
Okay. Chris Olave, again, kind of one of those things where could you get him at 19 perhaps, but perhaps not. The Chargers might consider Chris Olave here. So, or, even the Eagles could consider that. So my gut feels like it's a bit of a reach. I had him at 34 on my board. He's going here at 16, but I also don't hate it necessarily because it's a position of need.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just a fan of his game too. And I think he, as a good route runner, good speed, I think good hands too. I think it's one of those things that, I think that just overall, he's going to be able to work with this group. And I mean, he instantly, to me, if Michael Thomas doesn't come back, he's instantly, to me, the number one receiver.
Yeah, and I think he could run setup routes well. And I think that he could fit that. I'm assuming they're going to do something similar to a Sean Payton scheme, kind of like the Titans when they saw, Arthur Smith left, but they kind of kept the same scheme in place because that's what worked. I'm assuming we'll see something similar. I think Olave should do a pretty good job of that. In fact, it's not that dissimilar from what they did at Ohio State.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. And then obviously the big question becomes the Michael Thomas situation, but I like pairing him with Thomas too. So I think that's a pretty good shakedown for them.
Yeah. Number 17. A lot of people are going Jordan Davis here. A lot of people are going wide receiver here. I actually don't hate if Williams was still available at 17, I'd draft Jamison Williams. I think that could be really exciting because I know they don't need wide receivers, but it'd be awesome if they got a third one and made things like just made that passing attack just, top of the league. That's how you win Super Bowls. But I'm not as high on Garrett Wilson as others. I like him, don't love him. So they need a tackle. Let me go with the again. I think the smarter pick, even if it's a little bit more boring, Bernard Rainman, who I like. I think is good. I have him at 15 on my big board. He goes here at 17.
Yeah, I think that they could go a couple different positions here. They could also go corner to pair with J.C. Jackson, but I think this is a good pick. I think it's a safe pick, and I think he's still got pretty good receivers. So, receiver feels like a luxury pick to me for the Chargers. I think they could use one more, but I still think they're going to be a pretty decent offense with it without one.
But isn't the goal to be the best offense?
Sure, but couldn't Raymond help you be the best offense? Would you rather have a guy who's a potentially starting tackle right away and a second round or third round receiver? I don't know when their next pick is.
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather have a first round receiver and try and plug in someone to compete for that lineman job.
I'd rather have the offensive lineman and then a third round wide receiver, which there'll be a good, at least a solid slot guy available in round 3. They don't have a round 2 pick because they traded that in the Mac trade. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the right move.
Yep. We both like him too. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm ready to move on. You are?
Yeah. Number 18. Where are you going?
All right. So there's a few different things that I could do here with the Eagles. This is an interesting team. This is another team that could go wide receiver. If they want to shock some people, they could go quarterback, even though I don't think they should. I'm going to go a little off board here. I'm going to take the top guy at PFS board. I think he's a cornerback who is just kind of a gamer. I think he makes a ton of plays. I'm going with Trent McDuffie. I think he fits the secondary. I think he's going to work well next to Darius Slay, and I think he's going to help this defense be even better.
Yeah, don't hate this either. Eagles going primarily defense here. I think a lot of people expect them to get some offensive help, get another first-round receiver perhaps, but there has to be one available, right? And that's kind of the way that we do this is, maybe you could trade up or whatever, like, what we saw them do last year. But I think this would help their team out a lot. These are two, again, Eagles another one of those teams, a weirdly complete roster. Like they don't have a ton of glaring needs. They have some positions that they can improve upon for sure. So I like McDuffie a lot. I think he would fit that scheme a lot. I do have another corner ahead of him. I have Kyer Elam a little bit ahead, but I probably would rather McDuffie in that scheme of this, the primarily cover 2 scheme that they ran last year. So I like it.
Yeah, they could go Wilson here. I have Wilson. What is it? Wilson is 21st on my board, so I think that's someone that could also be picked there. But I think he makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah. So here we go. 19. This is for the Saints. They're not thrilled with this, the way that this shook out. And in hindsight, maybe this is another one of those at pick 16, they go Bernard Rainman just because, there's a better chance at least one of the wide receivers will still fall to them at 19. Although there's no guarantee of that, because if that happened, maybe Olave and Wilson were off the board in this scenario. So they're in an interesting spot. I don't really know exactly, where you could go with this. I don't think I want to go quarterback. I don't think that, again, any quarterback you love, you can get later on. So you don't need to go quarterback here. And Jameis Winston was solid. I think they like Winston, and he was solid with the Saints last year. So I don't think I need to go there. One name that's kind of jumped out at me is, do you go Tyler Linderbaum? Even though it's not like they desperately need a center or anything, but you kind of just get the best player and figure out where else to play, someone else. That I don't love. Is it another name that's pointing out at me? I'm going to throw a name back at you, and while I gather my thoughts, I'll let you talk about it. Would it be crazy to go Jordan Davis here? Just because, doesn't that feel like such a Saints pick?
It does feel like a Saints pick. It'd be the upside play and just add more riches to that defensive line. I think that makes a lot of sense. I guess the one thing too, as I was thinking about it with the Linderbaum pick, is that didn't this team just kind of flop on a center a couple of years ago? Do they really want to go through that again? Now, granted, it's just because you took a center and it didn't work out a couple of years ago, do you do it again? But I think that that's something to talk about. But I think a lot of those positions do make sense. Davis would definitely be the big home run swing.
Yeah. All right. I think I'll go Linderbaum and just figure it out. I don't think it's their biggest position of need, but I think that just go best player available for me. I have him. I have him at number 9 on my big board. The issue is just that there's not these teams high up that need centers, so I just kind of have to eventually just throw him in somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a safe pick. I think it makes a lot of sense, and good chance they're getting a good player there.
Yeah. All right. So I am picking twice now. I am going to pick the Steelers, and I just feel like the Steelers are going to go quarterback here. I just think that they're going to not just trade up. They might trade up. In fact, I don't think that's crazy. I just feel like they're going to go quarterback. Give me my second favorite quarterback on the board, Matt Corral. I feel like they're going to go quarterback. He's a quarterback I like. So there you go.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he's a really good talent. He's number 32 on my board, but he's my number 2 quarterback as well. And yeah, I think he fits that team well, and I think it'll be a good chance for them to try and start something new.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right, 21. Several ways you could go with this, Kyle. With your New England Patriots, there is Garrett Wilson, there is Jordan Davis still on the board, Andrew Booth still on the board, offensive line men like Zion Johnson on the board. Where are you going?
Yeah, there's a few different directions the Patriots can go here. Obviously, we set this up so that I could pick the Patriots as a Patriots fan. They've been rumored some cornerbacks. I think Elam makes a lot of sense here as a replacement for a J.C. Jackson as a potential man corner.
Mm-hmm.
They could go a nose tackle, even though they like Godshaw. They could go potentially Garrett Wilson, and obviously there's a chance. I mean, Walker's another one where they could take him, but I am going to go edge here. I'm not going to go Walker though. I think the Patriots thrive on positional versatility. I think they like guys who can fit in a 3-4 and a 4-3 really well because they kind of switch between both throughout games sometimes. I'm going to go with Jermaine Johnson II. I think he's my number 4 defensive end. I think he fits this team well. I think he can come in and be a 3-4 defensive end, defend the run really well. So I'm going with Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah. Listen, I don't hate this pick at this spot. You get Bill Belichick to coach him up. Listen, he's 54 on my big board, right? I'm not a crazy Jermaine Johnson guy. There is stuff to like about him. Like, I liked his tape all right. He just didn't win enough was the real issue. I mean, his pass rush win rate was, I believe, 187th in the country. So, like, he's not a great pass rusher. His run defense was about like 35th in the country. So, like, that's a lot better. It makes you feel a lot, better about it. Belichick does definitely, he cares about run defense a lot more. So I think he would work in this defense. And like you said, Belichick likes a lot of different guys he can throw out there. So Belichick is never going to say, well, I don't need a defensive lineman. If he likes a defensive lineman, he's going to take him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think he fits the team well. And you know what? I think he has, he reminds me a bit of some of the Dietrich Wise's game, but probably a lot more upside too. I think he's also just as good in the run. I think he has some pass rushing potential upside, just given his size, stature, all that kind of stuff. I think that this is a great spot for him to really develop into a stud at that position, potentially as that, they've had good defensive linemen, defensive ends come through this team.
Yeah. All right. 22 now. Again, several ways you could go with this. Obviously, Packers fans will be screaming, please, dear God, Garrett Wilson, select Garrett Wilson here. It'd be so hilarious if this happened and they didn't select Garrett Wilson. Who would you have them selecting at 22?
Yeah, I have one receiver above him. I have Jahan Dotson at 20 and I have Wilson at 21. But I do think this is an opportunity for them to take Wilson. And I'm going to take Wilson here just because I like Dotson more, but I think Wilson does have the upside to be a true number 1 talent. I think my one thing I'm worried about is how does he get off the line of scrimmage against some NFL corners? I think that's something I have a concern about. But if Wilson's there, I think the upside of him is that they're going to take him.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you have a chance to get Dotson in round 2 or even with your pick 28 or, and you have an earlier round 2 than you typically would have because of the Raiders pick. Yeah. I think Garrett Wilson's, again, we both like Garrett Wilson. Like, we're not quite as high on him as other people are, but I still like Garrett Wilson. I just don't quite have him as high. I have him as a first-round talent. I just have him as pick 31. Wide receiver is a notoriously difficult position to evaluate, but I think they would like this a lot. And also, just because there's a few people in the chat who seemingly are starting to get angry at some of these picks, just reminding everybody, this is what we would do. And we're never wrong. So just make sure that, we'll be right as we always are.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. This is what we would do. These are our boards. So it's just, we have different opinions than you. It's okay.
Yeah. No, not really. I think that everyone should have the same opinion.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Right. Obviously, joke. So it's my pick again, right? We're back to normal, back to me picking odds and you picking evens. The Arizona Cardinals here at 23. And again, several ways we could go with this. I don't think this is a team that, do they go after Akir Elam, who's someone who I think could fit that scheme? You know what? There's a part of me that, again, wants to reach for Jordan Davis here. That's very tempting. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to reach for Jordan Davis. I haven't seen this happen too much. It's a reach for me. It's not a reach for everyone else. Most people have Davis, around a spot, if not earlier. I have him a little bit later. I have him at 43. But what I've always said about Jordan Davis is my concern is he's just a role player who's really good at that role. I think for the Cardinals, a late first round pick, they're fine with spending that on a role player who's really good at a role in a position of weakness. Their defensive running game has to get better. So Davis here makes sense.
Yeah, this is kind of the spot I'm circling him, honestly. I have him 13th on my big board. We did our whole defensive line rankings. I made the argument for why I'm really high on him. I think the upside of Jordan Davis being a fantastic football player is too high to pass up. That being said, I understand the positional need and the positional value of an interior defensive lineman who's not a pass rusher is not as high as some. So I think he's going to slip a little bit. I don't think he's going to slip out of the first round, though. So I think there's a few teams that could look at him, but this is really the first team I'm kind of looking at as a potential Jordan Davis landing spot, and I think it fits perfectly.
Interesting. I think I could see a couple other ones I could see happening. I could see the Patriots doing it.
Yes.
Just again, as a rotational guy, I could see the Chargers doing it, but I would feel better about it here with Arizona, obviously, which is why I picked them here.
Yeah, and I just think the thing with Chargers and Patriots is that they could, but at the same time, I don't think defensive tackle is their number one need. I think they could use one, but I don't know if it's their number one spot that they need to address. And I think that Arizona could prioritize it a little higher.
Yeah. Couple of good comments here. One, James Cook still on the board. That's true. Are you thinking about James Cook at any point, Kyle?
No.
Okay. Also, someone said, is this a mock where you can't take Walker? Yeah, kind of. Yes. Let's move on. 24 here. Where are you going, Kyle?
I'm going to end the poor kid's suffering. This feels like a Cowboys pick. Trayvon Walker, 24th. They could, I think Zion Johnson would actually be a good fit for them and something they need because I think they need to get younger on that offensive line. But that being said, losing Randy Gregory, needing to address the position, this feels like a Cowboys spot. Now, once again, it feels like for the fifth time, this is our draft. This is based on our big boards. This isn't based on the conventional pick. We know that he's the betting favorite to go number one and is probably going to go in the top 5. But we have some concerns with Walker. But I think this is a perfect spot for Jerry Jones to be Jerry Jones. Shoot for the stars on this one. Get the best athlete and try and train him to be a football player. I think it works here.
Yeah. This would be such a Cowboys pick for sure. I totally agree with that. And I mean, they could use an edge guy to kind of say, like, hey, let's get someone who he can play multiple positions. So we can have Micah Parsons go on the edge at times, or we can have him play off ball with that position versatility, would be nice. So if Walker is going to get drafted in the first round, this is probably the ideal situation, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So I think it's a win-win for them. And I think if, this is actually a pretty good fit where he can kind of learn. And also he's not going to be asked to do a ton with the good defenders they have in that front seven. Yeah.
For the Bills, two main things I'm thinking about here at 25. Sky Moore is available, so they could go with Sky Moore. The other one that I'm thinking about, could they go corner? The corner that I would probably go with is Kaiir Elam here, which would be the other one. The flip side is, do you go for Travis Jones, where they have a lot of guys for the interior defensive lineman, but I don't know how many of them are moving the needle. Travis Jones could move that needle. So those are kind of the options on the board. Part of me feels like, again, the reason why you get Sky Moore is he's a Cole Beasley replacement. I feel like you can get that later on. And probably same thing with interior defensive linemen. So give me Kaiir Elam. I think they could use a corner. I don't think they desperately need a corner. They don't desperately need anything. They're really good. But give me the guy who, hopefully will be able to make a tackle with 13 seconds left.
Yeah, I think that's a good upside pick too. And, the idea of potentially going Trey White and Elam, I think is too good to pass up there. I do think Jones would be a good pick there too. I think it makes a lot of sense. But I do think that there's a few options they can go there, and I think that's a good spot.
Yes, I think so as well. 26. I got to warn you, Kyle. Titans fans disagree with who you're picking at 26.
Always, no matter what?
No matter what you pick, this is going to be one that you get criticism for. I haven't yet to see a mock draft where there isn't people in the comments saying the Titans picked the wrong player, regardless of where they go.
So my next receiver would be Jahan Dotson, and he's another guy I really like. But with their two receivers, I still feel okay that they don't have to go with receiver. I still think is a need for them, and I think you need 3 receivers. but I think that's okay to go late in a later pick. I think they can go later round receiver. I'm going to go with their next biggest need. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Zion Johnson fits this team well. I think he fits the team. I think he fits the role well. I think he's going to be a good guard for them, and he helps this offensive line.
Yeah, as a Buccaneers fan, I would be devastated if he goes one pick before my team, who needs a guard. I like this. Again, he could be the the offensive line, replacement there. He could fill in well. I think he does fit that offense well. And quite frankly, any offensive lineman will fit in well blocking in front of Derrick Henry. So that obviously helps. But I think he could make things work. Again, I've always kind of felt about Zion Johnson. He's like the most solid player in this draft. He just feels yeah, he's solid. He's going to be a solid guard.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think he just it's not a sexy pick. It's not a sexy pick to take a guard with your 26th pick, but it could be a spot where he's just going to fit the team and be able to be a starter for a number of years.
Yeah. So now moving on to 27. This is a tough spot for Tampa Bay. I think that, again, what do they need? I think they could use any defensive lineman, regardless of, I guess, unless you're like a pure nose guy, but even that you could maybe go with. They could use any edge rusher, I think, for sure. They could use a guard. I don't know it feels like it would be a reach for any of the offensive linemen at this spot. Some people think they should go with safety. I don't really know why they would get a first round safety when you have two solid safeties in Mike Edwards and then also in Antoine Winfield. You could use a third one. Todd Bowles does like to have three safeties, but you can get one in round 4 that should be able to fill that role. You don't need to do that with round 1. So I think I am going to go Travis Jones here. Yeah. Just because the idea of Travis Jones next to Vita Vea is too good to pass up. They could use another defensive tackle. So, you're not running the ball up the middle against Travis Jones and Vita Vea.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So just to clear up the chat, Wyatt is off the board. Wyatt has already been off the board for a while.
Yeah, he went 14, right? So, he's been gone. I think that makes a lot of sense. I have Kenyan Green at my 24th spot on my big board, so that's probably a position I would look at too. I think he fits their guard spot as well. I know you're not as high on him, so you probably have him a little bit low. You probably have him as second or third round pick, but he's a guy I really like too. I think Jones makes a lot of sense. I think they could go potentially a corner or safety, like you were saying, just to add more depth to that spot because they did have some injuries and it hurt them last year. But I do think that this is a fair pick, and like you said, this defensive line just gets even scarier. Yeah,
quite frankly, it's not that scary right now. Like the production itself wasn't that good. They have some names like Sue, who is not on a contract, wasn't great. Jason Pierre-Paul, who is not on a contract, wasn't great either. So they really do need an edge rusher and a defensive tackle. So they're getting one of the spots here. Maybe you can get an edge rusher in round 2, or get the guard in round 2, or maybe just sign a guard, or have Aaron Stinney, who was solid in their Super Bowl run, be the guard. They have options.
I think that's perfectly fair. I think it's I like the pick there, and you could get a lot more production out of that spot and have, probably the best interior defensive line in football.
Yeah, to me, he's the best player available that is in a position of need for them.
Yeah. So I mentioned it on this one. Do you have anything else you want to add to the Buccaneers?
No, go ahead to the Packers.
I mentioned it on that one. I'll go ahead and take my guy here, who's 24th on my board. I think it fits a need too. I'm taking Kenyan Green here for the Packers. I think it's a good offensive lineman to add. I think they need a little bit of interior offensive line help. So I got Green here going with their second pick.
Yeah, they need a offensive lineman, whatever position. Like they'll be all. They just need, because they have guys who are versatile enough. So they just need to add one more guy. He's probably not the offensive lineman I would have chosen here, quite frankly. But again, I'm lower on Green than others. I have him as my 64th rated prospect, just because he had some bad games in college. But if you kind of take out those bad games and say, let's look at his average game. His average game was good, and his average game justifies this spot. So I do see the logic behind it.
Yeah, I like the guys they have at tackle too, so I don't feel like I need to prioritize a guy who can bounce out and play tackle. I'm just going to get a guy who can stick on any of those interior spots, and that's a Green spot that I really like.
Yeah, no, I think this is a dream, maybe not a dream draft for the Packers, but it's a really good draft for the Packers.
They're coming out of this thinking it's an A+, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're high five, and there's going to be the clip of them, standing up and applauding. Kansas City Chiefs also have 2 first-round picks, 29 and 30. Several, again, I feel like I keep saying for everyone, several ways to go with this because there are. Again, it doesn't really matter which one I go with. Although it's kind of interesting doing the mock draft of picking back and forth. I'm only going to pick one guy, and then you're going to pick the other guy. So that kind of adds a fun wrinkle to this. But the highest guy on my board at 18th on my board is Arnold Ebiketie. So I'm going to draft him here. I think they could use an edge rusher. I do. I think that I'm not, unless you believe Frank Clark is going to have a career resurgence. I think this is a guy they could bolster up, and that's what I'm going to pick him here.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think they need help. I'm not convinced that even if they restructure Frank Clark's contract, that all of a sudden it's just going to solve the issues there, even though he's better value. I still think they need to get a guy, and I think that works. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good pick. I think he's going to be good for that team, and we'll improve this defense.
Yeah. All right. We're staying with the Kansas City Chiefs. I did not have him go wide receiver. Are you having him go wide receiver?
Yeah, so you kind of tied my hands a bit here. I'm not going to lie. So Jalen Pitri is a guy who's kind of been sitting there. He's number 19 on my board. I'm a huge fan of his as a corner. He's a little undersized, but he honestly, he kind of fills that Matthew role for me. But I can't really take him just yet because I feel like if the Chiefs don't take a receiver in the first round, their fans are going to go crazy, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I guess they still do need a safety, you're right. Because again, like, yes, they added Reed, but like, who's going to be the other safety? Are we going to have Daniel Sorensen or Juan Thornhill be the guy? I don't know. So yeah, that's definitely, they have a lot of holes. They really do. You have a lot of draft picks as well. I guess the way I would view it is, I mean, quite frankly, you could get a good receiver or safety in round 2. So that's where things get interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you could wait a little bit. I mean, there are a lot of Treylon Burks fans, but I'm going to go with my next best receiver, I think, on the board. He's another guy. Like I said, I had Pitri at 19 on my board. Jahan Dotson's at 20 for me, and I'm going to take Dotson here. I think he's a big-time player. Yeah, I think he's a big-time player, big catchability. I love his game. I love watching him play. I think he fits this team.
Yeah, that's just one that we disagree on. 56 on PFF's big board. Did not make my top 64 prospects. But listen, I've been wrong before. PFF's been wrong before. You have been wrong before. We'll see what happens. I think the Chiefs fans would probably be rooting for a George Pickens or maybe a Sky Moore even here. But, they need wide receiver help. And again, like I always say, wide receiver is the most difficult position to evaluate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few guys. Here's the thing, though.
Also, I forgot, Daniel Sorensen is a Saint now. But yeah, thank you in the chat for correcting me on that.
Yeah, does Pickens really... Does George Pickens scream a Kansas City Chief offensive player? I think that's the thing I have questions about.
Kind of. I can see him. Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know if he has the speed to play on that offense and really do what they want to do. They could add him to that Sammy Watkins type role, but I think Dotson has a little more versatility and has a little more speed that works for him.
That's true. I mean, only Andy Reid basically says if you run under, if you don't run under this 40 times, I'm not drafting you. So that's a fair point. That is a fair thing to point out with that. I guess I'm looking at the other top wide receivers could be available. Here's one that's interesting. I've heard some Christian Watson buzz. To me, that would be a reach.
Yeah.
In round 1. But like that would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? Of getting this like physical freak type guy who is completely unpolished and hoping that you can coach him up.
Yeah, I mean, so just breaking down the receivers, I have Dotson at 20, Garrett Wilson at 21. I have, where is it here? Christian Watson at 26, and I have Treylon Burks at 30. So I really like this receiver class, and I think the Chiefs would be happy to get one of those guys. I think a few of those guys fit the team a little bit better, and I think Watson could be that kind of swing for the fences kind of pick.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I wouldn't do it, but I get the logic behind it. Let's move on. Number 31. So it seems like they're just going to draft a guard or center here, right? Like that's just simply what they're going to do is do that because that's like their one need. I guess they could go corner here as well. You could go Andrew Booth. That wouldn't be a horrible move by any means, I don't think. Those are kind of the couple of options here for me is do we go with, the next offensive lineman on my board is Darian Kennard. it seems like the NFL is a little bit lower on him than I am, quite frankly. So maybe that's, not a great sign. Trevor Penning, also a guy who that wouldn't be a, huge reach, getting Trevor Penning. So that's the move, right? It's either Trevor Penning or it's Andrew Booth in this spot. I guess just give me Trevor Penning. And I think that, the defense was good last year. Give me the guy who push him into guard. I think he could play guard. That should be an interesting fit.
Yeah, I have Penning as 29th. I only did the top 32 on Twitter, but I have Tyler Smith right at the top of the second round too, who PFF's a little higher on too. I think he's a guy who, if you're looking for an interior guy, I think he actually kind of fits that mold a little bit better in that he could kind of move inside. But I think Penning could also just kind of work. And, you say you figure out those 5 spots when the season starts. I think I would have went Booth though. I'm not banking on Eli Apple replicating that success, even if you have a good system. I think I would have went Booth there over those two and just said, okay, the board didn't really break our way with Green, with Johnson, with Linderbaum, all kind of jumping off the board. So let's just get a guy that we feel like could fit the team.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. That both of those seem logical to me. Here at 32. To refresh everyone's memory, they went Kayvon Thibodeau at 2, now at 32, the Lions, to round out the first round. Kyle, I've been beating the jump for a while. I think a team goes quarterback here. I think some team picks a quarterback with pick 32. You get the fifth-year option available. Is that what the Lions do here, or do they pass on quarterback?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I was thinking about Sam Howell before you said that. Now, could this be the Howell pick? I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to take him, though, but I think it would make a lot of sense to even try, or if another team traded up to do it. I'm just going to go. I do think that they still have a lot of holes to fill, too. So I'm just going to take the guy I've been talking up. I'm taking Pitri here, a versatile defensive back who can do a lot of different things. I think he could jump into kind of a safety role. I think he could play the slot corner really well. And I think in a bind, he could play on the outside too. And I think he's going to help that defense be pretty good.
Yes. So here is our full mock draft. And it doesn't fit on it. Let me try to make it zoom down a little bit. Okay, here we go. Fits on the screen now. Perfectly done. All right. So there's our mock draft. This would be an interesting one if it comes true, Kyle.
Yeah, I can't wait for us to post this online and then people just go crazy that Trayvon Walker was way down at 24, that Garrett Wilson fell all the way to 21, or no, not 21, 22. But this is a fun draft. I always enjoyed this episode of the podcast. What do you think is the ballsiest pick here?
I think Drake London at 4 is to me, that's the one. I think that was the one that surprised me the most that you had.
Yeah. I guess thinking about it, you could go Stingley there, obviously, and then take you could still get probably London at 10, especially evaluating the teams in front of you. But at the same time, like I said, I'm just high on London, and if he's there, I want to be able to snatch him up.
Listen, if he ends up being this Mike Evans that people are sort of talked about him being, then it's a good pick. So I still stand by the worst pick of this draft was me taking Derek Stingley at 5 and not going offensive lineman there and then taking Stingley at 7, because there's no chance the Panthers are taking a corner.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, you ended up with still your number 1 offensive lineman because I like Neal a little bit more. But if they have a guy they view as a clear cut number 1, they could go with him at 5 and not even worry about it. I still think the Panthers, if they're not going quarterback, could trade back, honestly, because they need draft picks. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So you could kind of cover yourself there and say, hey, we'll take Stingley. If someone wants to trade up to try and get somebody, we at least got our guy, and then somebody else can trade up and get someone else.
Yeah, especially with all 3 of those tackles still on the board. It's like, okay, if you don't get number 1, you can still get. Did your dog sneeze or something? What?
She was barking at something. I don't know. Scared me.
Sorry to anyone who maybe is playing this, on their speakers. Now their dog's barking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was fascinating. What a way to end the show.
What a way to end the show. Yeah, a fun draft, Kyle. I think this was, again, it's always a good time. I thought the chat was well behaved in this one. I was not expecting the chat to be that. Usually, I'm sure some commenters after the podcast. Maybe that's where people really get angry. But the chat was, for the most part, pretty well behaved.
Yeah, the comments will be flooding. Looking forward to it. Bring all of your comments, criticisms. I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to hear everyone's thought, and I'm interested to hear. Like, I don't think this is a awesome draft. So I'm not going to be there are going to be some picks I think that are going to be a little crazy, and I think that this is going to surprise some people. I think there's going to be. I'm predicting at least a couple of guys to be like, who the heck is that guy, or why is that guy drafted so high? Because I just don't know if there's a lot of separation to me between guy number 15 and between guy number like 55. I don't think there's a ton of degrees of separation to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of those weird mock drafts where I'm like, picks like 1 through 5. I'm like there could literally be like, it could go this way, or like, I mean, I don't see any way that Aiden Hutchinson isn't top 5, but I could literally see like out of any combination make up that other 5. Like, so our 5 was Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Gardner, London, and Stingley. Like, would it be crazy if like Thibodeau, Gardner, London, and Stingley all didn't make the top 5?
Yeah, no, I don't think it'd be crazy at all. And then we've talked about it. I think the receivers to me epitomize this draft because there's so many of them. But it's like neither one of us had Treylon Burks in this first round. There are people who view Treylon Burks as the number 1 receiver in this draft.
Right.
There are people who review, you don't have Kenyan Green as a first round pick. I view Kenyan Green as a first round pick. So I think there's a lot of positions that there's some sneaky depth here, but there's not a lot of top end guys. I feel surefire are outside of Hutchinson, basically. And I think Thibodeau talent wise are like, that guy needs to be taken.
Yeah. So I just went out and I'll adjust the camera angle now back to our faces for the people watching on YouTube. I just went out and tweeted the mock draft. So, Kyle, where can they find out if they want to revisit what our mock draft was?
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK. Yeah, and you said you posted it already?
Yep, already just tweeted it out, tagged you in it and everything. So I'm sure you'll retweet it.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so it's it'll be a fun show. Looking forward to tomorrow night.
Yes, tomorrow night should in fact be a fun one. Disappointed, no Raiders. Wow, no McMayock. No big giant overreach. They're not even picking in the first or second round. They can't reach on anybody.
Yeah, I mean, what would be the most Ravens pick of this draft? You think
the most Raiders pick of this draft?
Yeah.
Oh, like something like I don't know, getting like Trevor Penning, like pick like I guess what they would have picked 22, right? So who would have been 22? That's just like
what are you doing?
A complete. Sorry, what's that?
What's that?
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about me. Sorry, I was fiddling with something. I thought it was messing up the.
Would it be like a Kennard thing?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Maybe like a Darian Kennard type pick. It's some offensive lineman that everyone had going like mid-round 3.
Yeah.
They would have redrafted Alex Letterwood again.
Yeah, take him again, honestly. It was just such a good pick the first time.
Yeah, exactly. It probably made the right call just getting Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Everyone, again, if you like to listen to your podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, the On the Sideline podcast is what you need to search. Find that. Get the audio only feed. We'll have that up. We always put those up right after the live stream. So check that out. Kyle, any final thoughts? Only one day until a football event.
One day until football event, but that is not the day we're looking for. We're looking for the start of football season, which is 134 days until the NFL season.
Hey, the draft is. I will say this. I think the draft is more entertaining than week 13 of the NFL.
That's a bold take.
Is it a bold take? I feel like week 13, for one thing, it starts to get to the point where like we know what these teams are. Like there tends to not be too much at stake. It's one of the, right around that area is the worst stretch of football. Still great football, but the draft, I mean, that's when everyone gets excited. Every first round pick is going to be the next, superstar.
You know what I don't want, by the way, as I'm seeing this pop up?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need Christmas and Black Friday football games.
Yeah.
I don't
Wait,
need more days that I have to plan football around. I like football on Sundays. I like football to set my time on Sundays. Not to mention NBA is on Christmas Day. Plus, I got to see family, I guess, sometime too. And we got this awesome USA England matchup on Black Friday this year. And we're gonna have a Black Friday football game. It's just I like my Sundays being football.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like if you either can't watch it or you have to divide your time. You certainly can't just say, okay, I'm going to go. Like for me, I can't say, okay, I'm going to go in my office and watch football all day on Christmas. I don't think that'll work out too well.
Yeah, no. So I like Sundays. I want Sundays for football. Occasionally a Monday night game, obviously too. But I just think that all of these football days, it's like I get it. Listen, you want to dominate every day, you want to dominate the ratings, but I don't need it all the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Real serious problems we're tackling here on the Sideline podcast.
Get Elon Musk on
it. Yeah, there you go. Again, thank you to everybody for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Tomorrow, there's the draft. Stay tuned on this channel. I will be having 1,000 videos about every prospect, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.